because of the mutation that takes place. But when we talk about the chromosomal disorders, they arise because of some sort of, you can say, abnormality in the sets of the chromosome that a person receives. Okay, it has nothing to do with mutation. Instead, imagine it like sort of like the error in the fusion of the gametes or the wrong type of gametes being formed. Clear? So we saw about we discussed the difference between thalassemia and sickle cell anemia. Did we do this?
No.
Okay. So the last thing is that the thalassemia is of two types: alpha thalassemia and beta thalassemia. If the alpha chain of the hemoglobin is affected, then that is called as the alpha thalassemia. And if the beta chain of the hemoglobin gets affected, then that is the beta thalassemia, right? Now, when we talk about the difference between thalassemia and sickle cell anemia, and what are the major difference in between? So always remember that thalassemia is a quantitative problem. Quantitative problem means there is less quantity of the hemoglobin molecule that is being made. Okay, less in number, either too few alpha chain, too few beta chain, right? So that is thalassemia. It is quantitative problem wherein the quantity or the number of the globin molecules are less. The second is the case of sickle cell anemia, which is a qualitative problem. Qualitative problem means that the globin chain is being synthesized enough, but it's just that the globin chain that is being synthesized is not the right type. Clear?
Ma'am, the globin chain that synthesizes not?
The right time. It's not correctly synthesized or not functioning. Even though if like for example 10 number of globin chain had to be synthesized, so 10 number of them are synthesized, but none of them are functioning correctly. So that is sickle cell anemia. And thalassemia is like if 10 number of globin chains had to be synthesized, 5 of them are synthesized, 3 of them are synthesized. Like, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, after the Mendelian disorders, there comes the genomatic mutation. Now see, genomatic mutation, it's like the chain, like how we studied gene mutation, wherein a single base pair was being changed, because of which all the following, you can say all the possible phenotypic expressions were being seen. Genomatic mutation is when the chromosome number change. Doesn't like happens because of a mutation, rather the number of chromosomes are changing, and if the number of chromosome changes, that also has an effect on the phenotype. Now, genomatic mutation is of two types: aneuploidy and euploidy. See, aneuploidy is when the number of chromosome can increase in one or two or like that. It's not concerned with the sets increasing, rather singularly chromosomes increasing or decreasing. Whereas when we talk about the euploidy, so this is concerned with the sets of chromosomes increasing or decreasing. Getting my point?
Ma'am, can you explain with an example?
See, like how we know that human beings are diploid organisms, right? Now, maybe if we talk about euploidy in any cell, not just human beings, I'm saying, in general, a cell. So, if a cell is diploid, that is a normal condition. Now, if the cell misses half the number of chromosome, half the number means half set is missing, then that condition will be haploid. Like the cell or anything XYZ only has one set of chromosomes, right? So since we are concerned with the sets of chromosomes either increasing or decreasing, that is called as euploidy. Is it clear? So
Yes, ma'am.
haploidy is an example of euploidy. Also polyploidy. See, normal cell has two sets of chromosomes. Let's just say because of the euploidy, a cell contains more than two sets of chromosomes. This is not normal. It's like the set of chromosome has increased. Again, an example of euploidy. Did you get it?
Yes, ma'am.
So it is concerned with the sets of chromosome, whereas aneuploidy is not concerned with the set of chromosome. For example, normally diploid cell is there and 2n, like 2n is the situation, right? But when 2n minus 1 situation is there, meaning one of the chromosome is missing, then this condition is called as monosomy. Okay, 2n minus 2. And see which one is missing. For example, whenever we write chromosome, we write 45 plus x slash y, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
total number of chromosomes are 46. Now, a person that has monosomy, so that person will only have 45 chromosomes, meaning either the X or the Y or any one chromosome is missing. So 2n, which is a diploid number, minus
Ma'am,
1,
the autosomes could be missing or the allosomes. Which one?
allosomes. Mostly it is allosomes. So in the case of monosomy, it is 45 total in number, right? Now when we talk about the nullisomy is 2n minus 2. When two chromosomes are missing. Now you see here, we are not concerned with how many sets are missing or how many sets are being added or subtracted. None of that we are concerned. So here, in general, the number of chromosome increases or decreases. So 2n minus 2 is nullisomy, wherein two chromosomes are completely missing. 2n plus 1 is when one extra chromosome is present. So one extra sex chromosome is present. So here the person's genotype would be 47 instead of being 46. Understood?
Yes, ma'am.
So this was genomatic mutation. Now after that we come on to the chromosomal disorders. Coming to almost the end of the chapter. So chromosomal disorders, these are the ones that are because of the imbalance in the number of chromosomes. Mostly these arises either because of the wrongful fertilization or the wrongful fusion. Let's just say the fusion of abnormal egg with a normal egg with an abnormal sperm, like that. So the first disease is the Down syndrome. This disease was described by Langdon Down in the year 1866. Now, why this happens? It's because of the trisomy of the chromosome number 21. Trisomy means 2n plus 1. Now, this individual has 47 chromosomes in totality. Now, why does a person have it? Now, see here, it's not the sex chromosome that is increasing. It's the chromosome number 21 that is increasing. Like one extra chromosome is there. It doesn't necessarily has to be the sex chromosome, meaning the allosomes that are increasing or decreasing. It could be either of the two things. Sometimes the autosome number could also increase. Sometimes the sex chromosome could also increase. Clear?
So, ma'am,
But
in this case, which one?
chromosome number 21 is it?
So, autosomes.
Yeah. So a person that has Down syndrome, that person shows all of these phenotypic expressions. The first thing is that they would be of short stature, meaning their height would be shorter. They'll not be very tall. They'll have a small, round, flat head. Their tongue is furrowed. Furrowed means it's like always protruding out of the mouth. Like how we have creases on our palm, they have a lot of palm crease. Instead of having few lines, they have a lot of palm crease. They have a tongue which is wrinkled, and their physical, psychomotor, and mental structures, they are underdeveloped. Their development is retarded.
Ma'am,
So
what is
neither
psychomotor?
psychomotor is like the coordination with the brain and the rest of the body. So they have underdeveloped gonads, meaning the testes or the ovaries of those people are underdeveloped, the genitals are underdeveloped, the growth is slowed down or the growth is retarded. And many a times you might have seen if you've seen the picture, they have almond-shaped eyes that are sort of a little bit slanted. So these are the characteristics feature of the Down syndrome. Now see, NCERT has a diagram of Down syndrome kid given. Pay attention to the diagram and the labelings because They can give you the diagram and ask you to label it or ask you to identify the following phenotypic expressions and to explain about the disease. Clear? Then the next chromosomal disorder is the Klinefelter syndrome. Now, Klinefelter syndrome, this is the one that happens in the case of males, and this is characterized by the male having additional copy of X chromosome. Normally, a male has XY situation,
Yes.
but for
Yes.
people that have Klinefelter syndrome, they have XXY situation. Clear? So why does this happen? It happens because if, let's just say, abnormal egg is there, an egg that doesn't have just one X chromosome, instead it has two X's. And when that kind of egg fuses with the normal sperm, that is normally 22 plus Y. This is first condition in which the Klinefelter syndrome could arise. The second situation is when the egg is normal, meaning it has 22 plus X situation, but the sperm is abnormal and it has 22 plus XY. Clear? So this is because of the wrongful meiosis taking place, as a result of which the gamete, instead of being diploid, one of the gamete is haploid. And when
Ma'am,
that,
so these conditions are the like the above condition 22 plus X isn't, I mean 22 plus Y, isn't that normal?
the 22 plus Y is normal, that's written only normal sperm.
Ma'am,
20,
so what is the defect?
don't you see the defect?
Ma'am, in the egg,
What is the defect in the egg?
it's X when it
What
should
is
be just
normally the,
X.
huh, the gamete in general has to be diploid. Sorry, haploid, isn't it? If the gametes would be diploid, then this would happen, right? So it's because
Yes.
during the meiosis, maybe because during the time of segregation, it didn't segregate, as a
Yeah.
result of which it contained that extra X chromosome, or in the second case, the abnormal sperm is being formed, which has both X and Y. So in that case, the male child has an additional X chromosome. Such persons are sterile. Okay, they are sterile, they can't reproduce. They have an overall masculine development because of the Y chromosome, but because of the extra X chromosome, they have feminine characters as well. For example, they have feminine pitched voice, they have development of breast, or this phenomena is called as gynecomastia. So it won't be functional breast, but they'll have fatty tissues develop in that area, just like how a female has. But these are male. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Then comes the next disease, that is Turner syndrome. Now this one affects only the females. This disorder is due to monosome, okay, which is an example of aneuploidy. That is 2n minus 1, right? So the person, instead of having 46 chromosomes, the person has 45 chromosomes in total, meaning including the X. And what happens here? There again, two conditions could be there. Abnormal egg with a normal sperm. So abnormal egg means doesn't have any X chromosomes. Understood? A gamete is formed which is lacking the X chromosome.
So overall, ma'am, only one allosome is there.
Coming from the normal sperm in first situation. In second situation, a normal egg is there, and that's fused with an abnormal sperm that neither has the X chromosome nor the Y chromosome. So these are the females. Again, they will be sterile because of the absence of the chromosome, right? The X chromosome. The ovaries are rudimentary. Rudimentary means they are sort of, you can say, underdeveloped or false. Poorly developed ovaries are there. So if ovaries are poorly developed, obviously they will not be able to make the ova, and they will be sterile because they will not be able to reproduce. these females, they also lack secondary sexual characters, meaning those characters that makes a female. Like for example, if their ovaries are underdeveloped and their uterus is also going to be underdeveloped, rudimentary. Okay, so in that case, these females will not have their menstrual cycle. If they'll not have their menstrual cycle, they'll not have the hormones regulated in their body. If they'll not have the hormones regulated in their body, neither will their egg be produced, nor will their body development happen, just like how a woman's body development happens after puberty. So those things like the development of breast, widening of the waist, body being ready for this thing, reproduction, these things are not happen in these females. Yeah.
Ma'am, so these females, they look like underdeveloped little girls. Like,
Yeah. Even when they are, it's not that it will affect their height. Their height will be normal female's height, but the features that makes a girl a woman later on in life, that will not. Clear?
yes,
So
ma'am.
these three diseases would come under the chromosomal disorders. It is not concerned with the point mutation, rather, it is concerned with the abnormal amount of chromosomes, and that causes the disease. Now, coming on to the last topic of this whole entire chapter, even though this is not the last topic in your book, but I have kept it at last. This is pedigree analysis. Have you ever drawn a family tree wherein you when in younger class you put pictures of your grandparents and your parents, then yours and your siblings like that. That is a family tree that we draw. Family trees
Yes.
tells us how we are connected in terms of a family, like how the people are connected, like who is whose daughter, who is whose son, who's the mother of who's the daughter of, all that thing. The same thing when you study in terms of genes. You study the inheritance of the diseases over generations, then that is pedigree analysis. Okay, so when we talk about pedigree analysis, it is a method of study of human genetic disorders, how it gets inherited or from which generation it is coming into the offspring. The analysis of the trait in several generations of a family is called as pedigree analysis. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
So in a pedigree analysis, the inheritance of a particular trait is represented in the family tree over generations. And it is very helpful. Now, which type of diseases can actually be studied? You can't study cholera. You can't study tetanus and diseases like this, cancer and stuff. Cancer, one way you can. Yeah, cancer you can study. But other diseases like normally we this thing, pneumonia, tuberculosis, these diseases you can't study through the pedigree analysis. It is better and helpful in studying the Mendelian disorders, all of the things that we saw, hemophilia, color blindness, sickle cell anemia, thalassemia,
Ma'am,
all of that.
means that acquired diseases can't be studied.
Mostly. Yeah. Acquired diseases will not be able to study because acquired diseases do not come from inheritance, right? The inborn diseases would be studied. Clear?
Yes.
Now, in the pedigree, we need to be familiarized with some of these symbols. So, if there is a square drawn, okay, a square would represent a male that is unaffected, meaning this male doesn't have any disorder. Just one second, my screen is stuck. Then a circle would represent, and it would represent a female that is unaffected, meaning doesn't have any disorder. If, let's just say, if this is the parent, like you say, and from the parents, 5 offsprings are there, but you don't know the sex of the offspring. You just know that 5 offsprings are there. So you make a diamond shape, and that represents sex unspecified, meaning it's not known. But we know that like this denotes the offspring. Clear? After
Yes,
that,
ma'am.
if let's just say this is the square, now if this is shaded or colored, circle shaded or colored, diamond shape, shaded or colored, then that would represent affected individual, meaning these people have disease. So this is a diseased male, diseased female, and diseased sex unspecified person. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Then if a square and a circle is drawn with a single line between, then that represents mating. Like these people are married and they will be giving birth to the next generation. The second, if there are two lines drawn between the square and the circle, then that would represent mating between relatives. Meaning known people are there and they are married. Okay. And when this kind of thing is drawn, so first is the mating, the parents are there, and from there the offsprings are there, right? So parents are above, children are below, and the order of birth is from left to right. So here the girl child was born first and then the boy child was born. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
The next, this situation tells us that the parents, they have a child which is a male, and that male is affected. And if the diamond shape is given and 5 is written in between, then that would tell us that 5 unaffected offsprings are there. We still don't know whether 5 females, 5 males, how many females, but 5 unaffected offsprings are there. And if this thing is shaded with 5 written in the middle, then that would represent 5 affected offsprings. Offspring means it could be male or female, either of the two or both. Clear?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, is this like crossing over?
Crossing over.
I mean, like, is this like how we do the monohybrid, dihybrid cross? Is it something
Huh.
similar to that?
Not really. It's how you study transmission of a trait. So you'd have to study charts. You'll not have to make it. You'll have to study charts. For example, uh, these things. So they'll give you this thing, and by looking at it, you'd have to tell which type of disease are they talking about. Whether it is autosomal, whether it is X-linked, whether it is a dominant nature or recessive nature. So that is what I'm teaching. Okay. So the symbols are clear to you?
Yes, ma'am. Symbols.
In most of the cases, you just have to study the pedigree and tell us about the disease. That's it. So now, by pedigree analysis, one can easily understand whether the trait is autosomal dominant or recessive, or whether the trait is sex-linked in the just like a hemophilia. So you can just understand which type of trait is found in the offspring. Now, in case of recessive allele, characteristic condition can appear in the progeny of unaffected parents. So if let's just say the parents are unaffected, okay, unaffected meaning that they might be carriers of the disease and they are not affected. But when their genes combine and they are expressed in the homozygous recessive condition, so maybe the unaffected parents that had they were carrying the gene, they could affect the children or their offspring. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Always remember one thing, that if two affected individuals are there, meaning the parents, both of the parents are affected, then it is not possible to have an unaffected child. The child will 100% be affected or a carrier. Clear? It's not at
Yes,
all
ma'am.
possible that two affected individuals would give rise to an unaffected child. Not possible. Now let
Ma'am,
us
in
see.
case of ma'am multiple children, would all of them be affected?
Everyone will be affected. Either some people will directly have the disease, some of the children will be carriers of it, but none of them will be free from it. Now there are different types of the inherited diseases: autosomal dominant, autosomal recessive, X-linked dominant, and X-linked recessive. These are the four nature of the diseases that we have seen, and this is how the Mendelian disorders, these are the nature. Now I'll give you some tips, some quick tricks, so that you can easily understand whichever pedigree you are studying. See, first thing, just one second. So the first thing, like as soon as you get a pedigree analysis or a pedigree flow chart, what you're going to see? You're going to see whether, for example, this is the parent set. Okay. From here, the offspring is there. Okay. Different offsprings are there. Let's just say like this. Okay. Now from here, the next generation comes along. Okay. Like this. If this is affected, like male parent is affected, here one more is affected, here one more is affected. So generation 1, generation 2, generation 3. So if in all the 3 generation, if even one affected individual is there, even one, then the disease nature is dominant. You'd have to see that first thing you'd have to see when you study the pedigree analysis is that in every generation, how many, like, is there any affected individual? And if there is, how many? The first thing, if you just quickly see that, okay, generation 1 has an affected individual, generation 2 has an affected, and generation 3 also has, then this disease is 100% dominant. 100%. Now, autosomal or X-linked, I'm not talking about that, but it is dominant. But in this case, see, so I'm here making 4 generations. Okay. Now, if this is the case, okay. So generation 1 has an affected individual, generation 2 doesn't, generation 3 has, and generation 4 doesn't. So always remember, if the trait even skips one generation, if it's not present in the second generation, but it is present in the third and then not in the fourth, even if the trait is skipping one generation, then that trait is not dominant, it is recessive. A dominant trait will be in every generation. Doesn't matter how many individuals have it, but one of them will have it definitely. Okay? Even
Yes,
if it skips one generation, if it is skipping 2 generations, then definitely recessive. Even if it skips one generation, still recessive. Clear?
yes, ma'am.
So now you can understand, okay, this trait is dominant, this trait is recessive in nature. So for dominant, all generations have to be affected. First generation has equally affected male and female, then it is autosomal. Now see, if like after that, if you see whether you want to see that whether the trait is autosomal dominant or not, or X-linked. So first for autosomal, if you're going to see the first generation, if 4 individuals are there, 2 are female, 2 are male. So if 2 males and 2 females are affected, then that is autosomal disorder. Autosomal means that equally male and female will be affected. It's not going to be particularly for one sex. It's going to be both the sex and affected in equal number. For example, if 4 offsprings are there, 2 males and 2 females, 2 males are affected, but only one female is affected, then that is not autism.
So, ma'am, one male and one female could work. Like,
Huh. Equal number has to be equal. If the trait is getting skipped in any generation, then that is a recessive trait. Now, how would you find out whether it is a sex-linked trait? So sex-linked traits would be sex-specific. For example, either in the generation, all the females are going to be affected or all the males are going to be affected. It's not that male and female will both be affected. If you see that in any generation, all the males are affected, definitely sex-linked disorder. All the females are affected and males are not, definitely X-linked disorder. Or another way you can find out whether or not it is X-linked you'd have to see the crisscross inheritance, meaning from the father in the first generation, then in the second generation, the daughter will be affected, and in the third generation, this daughter's son will be affected. So from the father to the daughter to the son, or to the grandson, that would be. So this is crisscross inheritance. If you study this, then definitely it is X-linked disease. Or if the mother transmit the disease to the son, so the mother is affected, then the son is affected, and then the son's daughter, meaning the granddaughter, gets affected. Then that is again X. Clear?
Ma'am, if like, does this mean that all three have to be affected, or else like one, as the son could be the carrier or something like that?
No, no, affected. Affected. Because here you mostly don't see a carrier, instead you just see affected, unaffected, affected, unaffected. Clear? So now if you see this particular chart, now here you see the first generation has an affected female, the second generation has two affected individuals, and the third generation has one affected individual. So is this dominant or is this recessive?
Ma'am, in the second generation, the first generation is having three kids, but the second generation, ma'am, it's not the their daughter. Means
Huh,
only one is affected in second generation, right?
huh. One is affected because this male is the offspring of this family. This female is the one, the other child is married. But again, that is connected to the next third generation, and that female is affected in the third generation. So since we see all the generations are affected in one or the either case, this is the dominant pedigree. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Now see this one. Here, first of all, generation 1 is affected and generation 2 is affected. So this is 100% a dominant disorder,
Dominant.
isn't it? Huh.
Yes.
Now, why, like, now tell me, since, let's just say, this is an autosomal dominant disorder. Now, how would you tell me that this is an autosomal disease?
Ma'am, it's either all the males have to be affected or all the females, or crisscross pattern. That's for
But
X-linked.
this, yeah, but this is autosomal disorder. This is not sex linked. If you see this one, see here, both the generations are affected. The first generation has affected male, but the second generation has only the affected females. The males are not affected. So now this is X linked dominant, 100%, isn't it? Getting
Ma'am, what makes it X-linked?
the thing, like all the daughters are affected. So I said to be X linked, either all the daughters will be affected or all the sons will be affected. That is the case. If you see over here, here the first generation, none of the parents are affected. But the second generation has most of the male kids affected, right? So this is
Yes.
recessive disease because not both the generations have affected individual, but since the male child are affected, then that is a X-linked recessive disorder. Clear?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
And now this case here, it is the case of autosomal recessive. Why? Because the first generation doesn't have any affected individual, but the second generation do, and only one of the female child is affected, right? So this is the case of autosomal recessive disorder. Clear?
Yes. Ma'am, which one was that in which the equal number of pair good offsprings are affected?
Autosomal. Now see this disease, this pedigree. Now tell me which type of disease is this?
Ma'am, it's X-linked
Hmm.
dominant
Very good. How is it X-linked dominant?
because father is passing on to daughter and daughter is passing on to her son.
Yes. So mostly these kind of questions. Now what is this?
It's dominant but autosomal.
How is it autosomal?
Ma'am, because oh no, ma'am, because mother is passing to son, and then son is passing to daughter as well as his son.
Hmm. Hmm. But majorly, the crisscross inheritance is present there, isn't it?
It is, but ma'am, one son is also being affected, right?
One son is also being affected, but the crisscross inheritance is there.
So
Okay,
we
and
have to keep in mind only the crisscross
that is very, very
inheritance.
prominent. That is very prominent. Okay. And then this is again the recessive condition that I've explained. Clear? Skipping of the generation would be there. It would be recessive. Now we will practice a lot of questions on this to make it fluid so that we can do most of the questions as it is. But with this, the particular chapter gets finally completed. Okay. Now, what were you writing? You write down. I'll prepare questions for you. So, what were you writing?
Ma'am, are we gonna have a look at NCRT? You said after
Definitely.
the chapter.
Yeah. What were you
Ma'am,
writing?
now can you explain that recombination?
Recombination, which part here? 1 second. Let me download the PDF. The part that you were saying that was left in NCRT.
Yes, ma'am.
1 second.
Ma'am, I was writing linkage and recombination.
Oh. What is the chapter number of principle and inheritance?
Ma'am, for
Fourth.
yes.
All right. How did you like the chapter? Genetics?
It's little different compared to the first unit.
It is genetics. That is reproduction. How did you like it? That's my question. I didn't ask you whether it is same or different.
It
Different as in you
was
found it tough?
yes, kind of.
Okay, how was your chapter biomolecules in class 11th?
Biomolecules, I'd say not that strong,
Hmm.
but I can catch up. It's not that missed, but not as strong.
Do you have the new NCRT book?
Class 12, yes, ma'am.
And like this new NCRT book also has a lot of changes, right? Does it have changes? Because class 11th NCRT has a lot of changes. I don't know about 12th.
I don't think that much, ma'am. Ma'am, also, my parents were saying there was a change in the NEET pattern of biology. You
Neat
must
pattern.
be knowing. Yes, ma'am. NEET and like there was overall change in biology. So, ma'am, you must be
Yeah,
knowing.
we'll see when we come to it. Okay. As of now, I have no idea about it. I'd also have to see. See, over the time, a lot of topics have been deleted from the NCR. Okay, like the topics that used to be very, very important earlier, those topics have actually been deleted from the NCR. So, because of that, sometimes as a contradictory, those topics that have been deleted, questions from those topics also come. Okay, so I have seen that. Like how you might have studied that tissues chapter in class 11, the structural organization of organisms. Remember?
Yes, ma'am.
Mhm. So now that chapter had the tissue part that was deleted initially. But then some questions may come from that. So when I'll be teaching you for the NEET, I'll be teaching you both. Like I'll teach you the whole entire thing, even the part that has been deleted. I'll teach it so that just in case, just to be like have a safer side, we'll have that covered. Is it clear? This
Yes, ma'am.
NCERT thing is not loading only.
Ma'am, till then, can I write?
Wait, because I'm looking at the screen. I can't share the screen also and look at the screen both at the same time. So I have to do one. So you had a problem in recombination part, right?
Yes, ma'am. There is a page where
Huh.
they explain the recombination frequency and all.
Okay, I'll read out the whole entire thing. Right, tell me when you can see the screen. Can you see my screen being shared?
Yes, ma'am. I can see.
Okay. All right. So talking about linkage and recombination. So Morgan, he carried out the dihybrid cross in Drosophila so that he can study the sex-linked genes that are there. The crosses were similar to the dihybrid crosses carried out by Mendel in pigs. For example, Morgan hybridized the yellow-bodied, white-eyed female to the brown-bodied, red-eyed male and intercrossed their F1 progeny to get the F2 generation, right? But he observed that in the F2 generation, the ratio did not come out to be 9:3:1. 3:1, right? It was not exactly how the expected ratio had to be, right? So Morgan and his group knew that the genes were located on the X chromosome and saw quickly that when the two genes in a dihybrid cross were situated on the same chromosome, meaning if this is one chromosome, the two genes are present on the same chromosome. Right. So the proportion of the parental gene combinations were much higher than the non-parental type. Non-parental is when the crossing over happens and a new type is formed. But when the genes that had to be inherited, they are all present on one chromosome, then it is not going to be formed in non-parental type. It's not going to be exchanged because it is present on the one chromosome. Now, Morgan attributed this due to physical association or linkage. He said that it's because of the linkage that the chromosomes were not being able to generate the non-parental gene combination. This much is clear?
Yes, ma'am. But, ma'am, from the parental gene, the combinations were much higher than non-parental. What does it mean?
The same thing that I told you right now, that if the genes are present on the same chromosome, like for example, there are two genes, okay, that had to be inherited. Okay, but those genes are present on that one chromosome only. Instead of being on both, it was present on one chromosome. That is what we mean by linkage, right? The physical association of genes on the chromosome. So in that case, the non-parental type of gene combination, which was formed due to crossing over, that was not taking place. Because of what? Because of linkage. And this is the very reason why the ratio deviated from the normal dihybrid ratio. Clear?
Yes,
And that non-parental gene combination, that was recombination, right? Now Morgan and his group also found that even when genes were grouped on the same chromosome, some genes were very tightly linked and they show very low recombination. The genes that will be very tightly associated on the chromosome, they will be not showing a lot of recombination. While the ones that were loosely linked, they showed higher recombination. For example, he found that the genes white and yellow were very tightly and showed only 1.3% recombination, while white and miniature wing, small size wing, they showed 37.2% recombination. More recombination frequency was there. And then this was the whole entire thing. Understood? So basically, they are showing that if the genes are very tightly situated, okay, they will be, you can say what? They will be showing less crossing over or less recombination. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am. About this page, ma'am, like I didn't understand what is this empty wild type, yellow, white. What does
See,
that
wild
signify?
type is the native type. The native type of genes that are there, native type. Okay. See, basically, what they are showing the variety of linkage. All these rod-like structures, they are showing the chromosome. And on the chromosome, these alphabets that you see, these are the genes that are carried onto the chromosome. Clear? And they are showing how the genes that were tightly located, they showed less recombination, whereas the genes that were loosely located on the or linked on the chromosome, they showed more recombination. This is just that thing.
Ma'am, plus sign, what does this plus sign mean?
Plus sign means having that gene or showing that character, like it is present in the like offspring. Clear? Like one of the character
Yes.
is shown. That is, see, dominant wild types that have the character that has the character shown is represented with the plus sign. Understood?
Yes, ma'am. But in most of the cases, why is one allele, like one rod like structure, empty in some of the cases? Is
This
this
one.
plain? Yes, ma'am.
Because here the genes are located on the one of the arm of the chromosome. They are linked at this place. That is why. And then these are the F2 generation. So they have the like the crossing over done, selfing is done between or intercrossing of the F1 generation is done. That is why both of them have.
Yes,
Clear?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So this was all about it. And then Alfred Sturtevant, he used to map the chromosome using these frequencies to find out the physical locations of the genes on the chromosome. So he used different map units and stuff. There was this one question also related to this. I will make you solve that question also. It was like finding out the whole entire sequence using the frequency. I'll show you. It's like a very nice question. One second. Stop. Can you see the screen?
No, ma'am.
So we have actually come to the end of this particular chapter, and the next chapter we will be starting is going to be molecular basis, right?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, before starting chapter, can we do plenty of questions to be thorough with
We will
even the competency based one?
we will have to do it because if we don't, we will not be able to solve questions. Okay, now can you see the screen?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Now I can.
So you were writing about recombination. See, however much you will be able to write today, you'll write it, and then the rest of the notes I'll send it. So you write it at home and complete it. Okay.
Okay.
But yeah, however much you'll be able to write, you'll write. You were writing recombination and linkage.
Yes.
Which part? You have to start it?
I was, yes, ma'am, beginning this part.
Oh, Done, Raneem?
Yes, ma'am, done. Ma'am, done. I'm done. I'm done. Ma'am. Ma'am, none.